success of an entrepreneur.
We've raised the bar.
Learn firsthand from successful business owners and create your own path to success.
I'm going to show you how great I am.
It's time to hit the road to growth with team lead of the Enriquez Group, Realtor Vinny.
Hi, Roach Growth listeners. Today I have Nick Stageberg. He is the CEO of Black Swan Real Estate. I think the core, and correct me if I'm wrong, Nick, investing, right? That's kind of your journey. That's kind of what pushed you to get your real estate license, and that kind of what drives you today.
That's exactly right. It's funny. I'm a licensed real estate agent. I have a very successful real estate sales team at Keller Williams, and I can still remember sitting down with the broker at Keller Williams here, and I wanted to get my real estate license just so I could look at properties myself, so I could buy properties. And the broker's like, yeah, that sounds great, but you're gonna be a really successful agent. I'm like, no, you're not listening. I just want to buy properties for myself. If that doesn't work for you guys, I totally understand. I can go somewhere else. He's like, no, I'm fine with that, but you're gonna be a really successful agent. I'm like, yeah, I don't know if there's a good connection here. Don't worry about it. We'll circle back around to it. And then got my license, got my first property with my own license. Then like a month later, found another deal. I'm like, gosh, I don't have money to buy this deal. What do I do? Wait a second. I have a real estate license. I could sell this property to someone else. And I called the broker. I'm like, all right, I can't believe I'm saying this, but like, how do I actually be a real estate agent and sell properties to other people and stuff? And honestly, that's kind of what brought us to where we are today, is just serving investors, helping investors find great investment opportunities in real estate, and being a licensed real estate agent is a big part of that. But that's it. You nailed it right there.
What? So you're primarily in Oklahoma, correct?
So we have some properties in Oklahoma. That's kind of where we started out. I lived in Oklahoma for 15 years. We're in Rochester, Minnesota right now, and then we have some properties in some Tacoma, Washington properties as well.
I mean, do you still actively prospect yourself, or are you doing more speaking engagements?
Yeah, so I love to do what I'm doing right now, going on podcasts and just connecting with investors, people that want to invest in real estate, looking for passive income. I still do some real estate transactions every year to kind of keep myself honest. I certainly actively use my license. I am the agent representing the buyer for our larger deals. We closed a $5 million deal and a $10 million deal this week. That's an unusually busy week. That's not a normal week for us, but it's been a busy week there. So I'm the agent on those deals. And then I try really hard to just answer my phone. I think as any agent, we have a private equity fund, so theoretically I'm like a fund manager or whatever. But I think it's all the same skill set. Like, you just need to show up for people. And if someone is thinking about writing you a check for $1 million, like, you better pick up your phone. So we just kind of put ourselves out there. We have our calendar link available. Anyone can go to meetblackswan.com and just block a time on my calendar directly. So we do almost no outbound prospecting. It's all inbound prospecting. We do tons of free education, tons of teaching, we're just kind of an open book. We give away our whole business plan. We call that the cookbook. And then if you like the cookbook and you say, man, it seems like this person knows what they're doing in the kitchen, like, I just want to go to the restaurant, well, that's our private equity fund. And literally that cookbook is our whole business plan for the private equity fund. Some people, they want to do it themselves. They want to reproduce what we're doing in their market, and they can do the cookbook. Sometimes, people just want some passive income, and they can go to the restaurant. But we just kind of put ourselves out there, and then whatever comes back to us is kind of what was meant to be. But I do probably 10 calls a week with investors at least. So a lot of active prospecting. I think that you're constantly looking for clients, and you're looking for deals as a licensed real estate agent, as a private equity fund manager. It's all the exact same skill set, and I think any real estate agent out there can kind of follow the path that we've gone on if they want to. And I think that the more agents out there that are investors, I think that's just a good thing for society. So we try really hard to serve agents specifically. We'll go speak at other brokerages and stuff and speak to our path and how agents can kind of get in the investment game. And I just think that's a good thing for society when agents, the people that are out there in the market, are also the investors that are in the market that own that real estate.
A lot of stuff right there. You
Yeah,
can
a lot of
definitely tell you're a speaker. We got this. All right. So Nick, one thing that always intrigues me, especially because being in the real estate fields here, having and knowing a lot of different investors, one of the things that always intrigues me is when investors get the real estate license, and I know you're doing both at a high level, and you're helping people out. And I know in California, there's different disclosures that you have to provide as a
Yes.
licensed realtor instead of just being an investor.
Yes.
How does that change in other states, in Oklahoma and the other states that you're working in? Is there a big difference from being an investor and being a realtor as an investor?
Great question. And that's a super common question that I get both from investors who are thinking about getting their license and from agents who are thinking about being an investor. I think that we all live in a mindset of scarcity, kind of by default, and we have to try really hard to break out of that. And that's one of the most common excuses. I think the most common excuse is I can't invest because I don't have an LLC.
Yeah.
And the next most common one is if you're an agent, I can't invest because I have a license, and if I don't have a license, I can't invest because I'm not an agent. Those disclosures, in my opinion, if those are a hurdle for you, I think that you may not be doing business the right way. I mean, those disclosures, they vary by state to state, but essentially those disclosures pretty strongly say, like, this is an unfair conversation. I have a hopelessly unfair advantage over you if I'm a licensed agent and you're not. And
Yeah.
so in order for us to do business in a fair way, you should seek representation. That's essentially what those disclosures typically say. I'm very deliberate and aggressive in sharing those disclosures at the first substantive encounter, and that is never a hurdle in doing business with someone. And again, I think that if you're doing things that are maybe, I'm not going to say unethical, but maybe are working around the rules in some ways or whatever, like if having a license is a hurdle to you being an investor, then you're not doing things the right way. I was an investor for many years before I got a license, and I was doing deals on a slow cadence. So I was, picking up, one property per year kind of thing. I think that's a common model, and that's enough. If you just pick up one property per year, after a decade, you're a millionaire. That's mathematically unavoidable. That's just how the numbers work. But I got my license. Within 30 days of getting my license, I got my first deal under contract. It was like a 10x acceleration of my cadence. And then a month after that, I found another amazing deal, and all of a sudden I had to represent investors because I didn't have enough money to go buy that next deal, and the next deal, and the next deal, and I 10x'd in that first year that I got my license. I'm going to say that a second time. I was an investor without a license for many years, for I think 6 years, and I did like one deal per year during that time frame, and then I think I did like 12 or 13 deals in my first year that I got a license. So, just like being in the market, being in relationship with other agents. I remember the first REO I called on. So I would call on REOs as an unlicensed person, and the agent, I would say, like, well, you better give me a discount because I'm unrepresented and I'm going to aggressively negotiate with you. And I just didn't get it. And I didn't understand what I didn't understand. And I was frustrated that I wasn't successful at it. And then I got my license, and then I called that agent, and I'm like, hey, I'm just going to be really vulnerable and transparent with you here. I just got my license. I've never done a deal before. I don't know how this works, but I'd like to buy this house. Can you help me with this? And he's like, sure, man. No, I totally understand. When I first got my license, it was a little overwhelming to me too. So here's how the REO process works. You need to give me an offer. They've got it listed here, but I bet I could get an offer through at this price. I bet they'd let it through on an inspection contingency. And if you found something bad, I bet you could negotiate on price a little bit there. Like just like laid everything bare, because when you have an agent conversation, there's you're allowed to share privileged information. There's different disclosure obligations. You can disclose more to another agent without betraying your client. Essentially, I think this agent was very professionally representing his client and getting a deal done. These REOs are very frequently difficult to close deals, but like there's just so much more possible to get a deal done when you have a license as an investor. And if you are buying one deal a year, maybe it doesn't make sense to get a license. But if you want to go do 3, 4, 5 deals per year, like the commissions alone are going to pay for themselves. Your access to properties, your access to agents, to opportunity, like it's just like I think every investor should have a license if they can.
And I think it's, and to say the opposite of it. I agree with you on a lot of stuff, and to say the opposite. As a realtor, you have to relay, if you're buying the property, to the person that they might not be getting what they would be on the open market, right? So you have to kind of give them a guidance on there. And I know there's some investors, more wholesalers than I guess investors that are basically buying the property to renovate, resell, or buy and hold. But I mean, there's some deals that I hear where they get them drastically low, and it's older individuals. I mean, there's pros and cons. I think for any avenue, it's quick closes for an investor. Usually no repairs, anything like that. So it's a pros and cons, and making sure that the seller is aware of those pros and cons. As I think having the license. So that, I mean, based off of whoever is listening right now and is an investor, right? Be aware of that. But if you're on the up and up, like Nick's talking about, and you're basically being honest with the person, you shouldn't have to worry about basically being a realtor. Like
I agree 100%. If you're taking advantage of someone, yes, it's hard to take advantage of someone if you have a license. In fact, it's illegal and unethical.
Yeah.
I don't think we should be in the business of taking advantage of people. And to speak to that point directly, because I really appreciate you being so transparent there. I will sit down with the seller and I'll say, listen, if we fixed up your property and I represented you as an agent, here's what I think we could get for it on the market. We might have to list it. We might have to do inspections. There are going to be contingencies. Your property is in, deteriorated condition. It might fall through. It might take us 6 months to a year to sell this property. We might sell it right away. We could get more for it, or I can make you this cash offer that's all cash, no contingencies. Maybe I could even discount my commission, eliminate my commission from that equation. We eliminate the buyer commission, and I literally just give them like a good, better, best, or a 2 scenario net sheet, and say, what option would you prefer? And this exponentially increases your lead conversion. I'm gonna say that a second time.
Oh yeah.
Having a license, like any wholesaler that's sending out direct mail, that's doing outbound dialing and stuff, that's trying to drive for dollars or dial for dollars, they'll tell you they have a crazy low conversion rate, like 10%, 5% conversion rate. When I go meet with a seller, most sellers, they don't want to sell their home for 50 cents on the dollar. But if they could sell it for 70 or 80 cents on the dollar, I mean, that's a listing appointment. We've got so many ways we can serve you because we are a licensed agent. Maybe I could line up a deal where I get, a double end commission. I get a 6% commission. I find another buyer who can maybe pay more than I can pay, but we don't have to bring it to market. So there's a scenario in between. I buy it for cash and we take it to market. Maybe there's another investor I know, and now investors are calling me every day saying, hey, do you have another deal? And here's the deal I'm looking at. So you get in the middle of that deal flow, and that's how you get the really incredible deals. Like, your most important job as an agent and as an investor is to be the first person someone thinks of when they have a problem in real estate, when they have a problem that needs to be solved. And so by having a license, by being an investor, like, you can solve everyone's problem. You have all those tools.
And for people listening, this is the last thing we're going to get into Nick's journey, is if you don't want to be an investor right now because maybe you're just getting into real estate or just getting into the investment, you don't want to get your real estate license, make sure you have an investor that you can trust in your pocket, because just like Nick's talking about, I mean, there's some people that want the quick close and just want the cash, especially in the market that we were just in. I mean, even though they weren't maybe getting as much as they were on the market, they were still getting drastically more than they would have got 2 years ago. So just have someone in your pocketbook for any realtor out there. And if you're an investor, you don't want to deal with the license yet because you're just getting going to it, there's a lot of realtors that want a buyer to work with. So anyways, all right, let's jump into Nick's journey. I mean, he went from investor into real estate and kind of doing both, but your journey is kind of one of a necessity, right? Where you basically rented out to friends and kind of worked your way through there. Can you walk us through kind of a young Nick's journey?
Yeah. So, I had a tough childhood growing up. Who didn't? But was car homeless for a time, and had to come up with some creative solutions to create win-win deals. And in real estate, we'll say, at a very young age. I was out on my own when I was 14, and renovated the basement of a friend's house in exchange for being able to live there for a while. And then when I went to college, I'm like, man, this on-campus housing is really expensive. So what if I rent a house and then sublet those bedrooms to friends, and kind of created this really awesome, beautiful living experience where I lived for free basically through college. That was my goal, was to get to a break even so I could live for free by renting out these rooms, and then eventually bought a house, and then rented out those rooms, and so never paid the mortgage on that house. Have never paid that mortgage on that house in a decade, in 13 years. Eventually started buying more houses. trying to get to that kind of one house a year, track or whatever. I had a totally different focus in life in my education. I got a bachelor's degree in ministry and a bachelor's degree in computer science, and did a very successful tech startup. Did some research. I was expecting kind of a windfall from that tech startup. So if you Google, what to do with a bunch of money, how do you not end up like some of those people who they win the lottery and they're bankrupt the next year? All the research said invest in real estate, and that was something that I was already kind of sort of involved in by like owning a home and renting out the rooms in the home. So that really kind of put me down that path. Continued a very successful tech career. We went from my first startup, I got in the ground floor. We went from 13 million in venture capital to 100 million in private equity sale over the course of 9 years. And then I'm a spiritual person. I think my path is guided somehow. Found myself doing a startup for the Mayo Clinic. So like how Amazon and Facebook, they sponsor startups underneath their umbrella to foster innovation within their enterprise. The Mayo Clinic wanted to do a startup, and they wanted a grizzled, proven, successful tech startup person to run that. We went from just a few people to 13 teams of engineers I was leading over the course of 3 years. So that was an even more kind of meteoric journey than the first startup, and that was just an incredible opportunity to serve. There's no stock options or anything like that with that opportunity, just working on really cool projects that serve people. But that whole way I was building that real estate portfolio. And by the time I got to the end of that 3-year journey with Mayo, so I've been doing the tech thing for about 15 years altogether. I was quote unquote financially free, had 20 single family homes, small multifamily properties that would generate 100,000 in quote unquote passive income, self-managing, doing my own maintenance tickets, leasing all the units myself, doing everything myself. But step back from tech. And then I went to a Tony Robbins event. Have you ever done any Tony Robbins stuff, Vinny?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, he gets you into a peak state. He gets you totally energized. And then, you're in a room with, 10,000 people. And he says, who here owns their own business? Everyone raised their hand. He says, who here is, happy with the success of their business? No one raises their hand because everyone in there is, just never satisfied with their level of success. And he says, I'm going to tell you why your business is less successful than you think it is. And like write this down. You are not listening to your customers. You say you are, but you're really not. The market is screaming at you for value, and you're just putting your hands over your ears and saying, I don't want to do that. I can't make money at that. That's not why I got into this business. That's not our product. And you need to ask yourself higher quality questions like, who can I hire that would love to do that? And what sort of pricing model or business model would let me deliver value to these people? It was like a stake through the heart, because for years people would reach out to me and say, Nick, I love this, thing that you're doing. We'd have like pictures on Facebook of like a little sweat equity remodel we're doing and stuff. And people would come over and check it out, while my wife and I are painting the walls or installing flooring. We were doing a lot ourselves in those days. And they'd say, how do I get in the game? How do I wish I had, 10 or 20 single family homes. I wish I had this financial freedom. And we'd say, no. We actually had to make up a metaphor to turn away the business. We said, we've got a big family. We've got 4 kiddos. We love taking care of our own family, but we don't want to open a daycare. And, so Tony, he'll tell you, just say yes. So, he challenged you to just call the last person you said no to and just say yes. So I'd like said no to someone just a couple of days before, and I called like, okay, this is gonna sound crazy. I'm at this seminar, and there's this crazy guy on stage I've never met before, but he told me to say yes. So you said you wanted to, partner on a real estate deal, and I had said no. I'm saying yes. And they're like, okay, I'm in. Tell me where to send the money. I'm like, no, I don't even necessarily know how this is gonna work yet. You haven't heard my pitch. And they're like, no, I'm in. Just tell me where to send the money. I'm like, well, this is weird. And then I hung up. I called the next person I said no to. It was the exact same call. And I hung up. And I called the next person I said no to. The exact same call. And that was kind of when the current phase of our business was born. So we went from doing a ton of third-party representation as a licensed real estate agent to partnering with our investors. And it does not need to be rocket science. Like our private equity fund to this day is a super, super simple model. So we have no fees whatsoever, which is kind of unheard of in the industry. 100% of the profit goes to our investors, and then it's a 50-50 split after that. So I call it the lemonade stand model. If you open a lemonade stand with your kid, this is probably the model you'd come up with. Like, hey, I'm gonna put some money into your lemonade stand to buy some sugar and some lemons and some pitchers, and I need to get that money back, and then we'll split the profits after that. So we structured a bunch of joint venture deals that way, and then did more and more and more of those until we had so many of them going that it made sense to kind of combine all that into a private equity fund model. But that model has been the same for years, and people love it. And I think any entrepreneur out there can go on that same journey. I think there's probably a lot of entrepreneurs that are in the B2B space, and they see all the value they create for their clients. Hopefully they do anyway. Like, you can partner with those clients or real estate agents that serve investors and see all the money these investors make. Well, you find a great deal. Instead of selling that deal to an investor, you can partner with that investor. Hey, you bring the money, I'll do everything else, and we split the profits. And I think that aligns incentives in a really powerful way too. It's a great thing for society. It's a great thing for the agent or the entrepreneur. It's a great thing for the investor. And that's really what brought us to this place today. We've got a third of $1 billion in assets under management. It helps that I have done a couple of startups before that were pretty successful. So I've seen that path before, the path of hiring people and maturing as a company. But I think really there's just an intense hunger out there. People that are they want to invest in real estate, but they realize, I think consciously or subconsciously, that you might get calls at 2 a.m. and you're going to have to fix toilets, and it's an active business to invest in real estate, and you really need a partner that has the skills and the team to do that, or you're really just kind of buying yourself a job. So maybe a long story, maybe a short story, somewhere in between, but that's kind of what brought us to where we are today.
Rewinding a little bit, right? You talked about hunger, right?
Mm-hmm.
What was your big why when you were having basically enough passive income that was taking care of, the life that you were living? What was the big why of actually growing and coming to work, building something bigger?
Yeah, that's a great question. So again, I'm going to go back to that Tony Robbins event. People who are in that Tony Robbins ecosystem, they all kind of, it seems like a cult because they rave about it so much, but it is life-changing if you lean into it, if it works for you. I went to that first Tony Robbins event. That's kind of where I was at. I was financially free. I was, at a very young age, and kind of searching, like, what the heck do I do now? Like, I'm financially free, but I've still got my whole life ahead of me. And Tony kind of specializes, I would say, in coaching people that are performing at some level. He says that achievement without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. That's when people, get addicted to drugs and alcohol and kill themselves. Is when they feel like maybe they've gotten to that mountaintop and it just wasn't what they were hoping it was. And I know a lot of people. I talk to a lot of people that get to that financial freedom level and they don't have something greater that drives you. So, our big why is going to sound a little crazy. So, Tony will encourage you to set insane goals. It's to change capitalism in some small way. So, our private equity fund has a radically different structure than most funds. Again, no fees, 100% of the profit goes to our clients until they get their money back. 5% of our profit from the fund goes to our staff as a profit share, which is kind of unheard of in the industry. 5% of our profit from the fund goes to charity, which is, again, kind of unheard of in the industry. And we have some pretty fun goals. So 3 years ago, when we really kind of leaned into this thing in earnest and started, we've grown 100x in the last 3 years in assets under management. I wanted to build an assisted living home for my mom, which we were able to make happen. I think every good son dreams of building a house or buying a house for his mom, but my mom was in poor health at the time. She actually just passed away here a few months ago. So we did this amazing, found a distressed home, and we renovated it to an insane standard, spent $10,000 just on the handicap ramp and stuff like that. That was one of the more fulfilling things I've done in my life. I said I wanted to build a school for my kids. I didn't even know what that meant, but and I have no idea how it happened. I don't claim any responsibility for it. It's a God thing. I just kind of projected that vision. We found a really scrappy startup school that was in the basement of a 70-year-old church building that we just loved their mission and wanted our kids to attend school there, but just a atrocious facility. We found an abandoned 40,000 square foot office building that was an REO. And, this past summer we had, teachers and students and families there, painting walls and ripping up carpet and stuff, doing some sweat equity, rehab on this massive building. By the way, painting a 40,000 square foot building is a lot more paint than I thought it was. And the kids moved in here just a couple of months ago. And so when I go drop my kids off at school every morning, like that is the best moment of my entire day. I will just like park the car there for 30 seconds and just watch the stream of cars. There's hundreds of kids going to school there now. It's a really cool school with a really cool, it's like a mindset culture. It says, my attitude is gratitude on their school uniforms. Like just the coolest school ever. And I just watch all these kids running in, and it's like, my wife and I, we made this thing happen in some small way. I mean, a ton of people were involved. We don't run the school, but we brought our real estate expertise to a really cool organization that just needed a huge push to make, to put together a real estate deal like that. Like that will get you up in the morning. Like focusing on yourself, it is very easy to get depressed, but focusing on what you can do for others, it's hyper motivating, so much more motivating than getting a new car or a bigger house or whatever. Like those things, they fade so quickly. The satisfaction, the happiness you get from those material things. But like we built a school. Like I don't know, I get giddy just thinking about it. So if you are getting close to financial freedom and you haven't yet thought of how you can give back, you need to start thinking about that, or you're going to be in a tough, psychological place soon. And then if you have, achieved financial freedom, like how can you 10x that? How can you, and we're always coming with new things. So we have a course. If you go to meetblackswan.com, you can check out our course. It's a give what you can model. 100% of the revenue goes to charity. We've raised 6 figures for charity from that course. I mean, we just figure out ways to, like, we come into the office and say, what's a way we can give away more money today? That is like the most fun question you could ever ask yourself. Like everyone gets excited to ask that question. Everyone gets involved. We're redoing a kitchen for a homeless shelter that's next door to one of our apartment buildings right now. And gosh, if you're ever struggling to sell your services or whatever, like it's way more fun to sell charity, to sell service, to sell giving than to sell profit. Like that's the thing that I love to get on the phone and talk to people about. And lots of deals come our way because of it. When you start a conversation with a banker or a real estate broker about, hey, what's your give back and how can I help you, create a charity or contribute to our charity, like really cool opportunities come about as a result of that conversation. So that's what gets us out of bed this morning is figuring out ways to give. And eventually, I think we'll have billions of dollars in assets under management in the near future. Every one of our investors, they know that we charge no fees. We don't get any profit until they get their money back. I want them asking all their other, fund managers that they're invested with, like, why do you charge all these fees and what do you give back to? Wait a second, you don't have a give back in your fund? Like, why would I give my money to you if you're not giving your money to anybody? Like Warren Buffett made it unacceptable to keep your wealth, right? He changed capitalism in a massive way, and maybe we could do something similar in our time on this earth here.
So what does that routine look like? You talked about coming to the office. How can we give back? I mean, is that really every day? Hey, let's talk about this, what we can do, or is that like a brainstorming session every quarter, end of the year? I mean, what does that look like for your company?
Yeah, so it's not an everyday thing, but it's the thing in the back of your mind that is at some point throughout your day, you probably have some still voice in the back of your mind that says, why the hell are you doing this? You have a frustrating phone call, you have a challenging interaction with a staff member, and you have some voice in the back of your mind that says, you've got enough money. Like you don't need to put up with this bullshit. Like, why are you doing this? Like you have to have that back there or you can't move forward. So
what does that look like? I mean, is it basically your team? Hey, I got this idea. Nick, can you put this in the calendar, or do you have like a board or something like that people can write on, or what does it look like?
So every member of our team knows that they participate in the profit share, so that's how they benefit themselves. And every member of our team knows that giving is a huge part of what we do. So like one of our team members really wanted to support. There's a suicide, line. It's a foundation that just supports people that are coping with suicidal ideation. Is this something you want to support? Absolutely. Everyone on our team knows that this is a huge piece of what we do and the thing that kind of gets us most excited. And so people are just constantly bringing ideas to us saying, hey, is this something that we'd want to support? There's there's never a day that goes by where we don't have a conversation about it. And it's always the most exciting thing that we talk about. It is a powerful piece of our organizational culture. It comes up in every conversation, in every job interview, anytime I'm, talking to a prospective investor, like, here is where your money is doing good. And it goes a big step further than that. So let me tell you a story, and this might be a tough story to hear. So I'll just kind of warn your investor, or your listeners here. So it's not just that we give money away. The way we do business, I think, is the way business should be done. And by coincidence, it's actually very profitable to do business the right way. So most people that buy apartment buildings and renovate them, it's a flip. So they'll buy the apartment building, they'll kind of repaint the cabinets, repaint the countertops, do kind of a lipstick remodel, and then flip it before the paint job wears off. And some of these apartment buildings, they've been flipped 5 times in the last 10 years. Like, there's no way this is good for the tenants. There's no way this is good for the community. We have a buy and hold model, so we've never sold anything. And when we buy a building, we'll put in brand new countertops and brand new cabinets and stone countertops that are going to last for 50 years. And we message these tenants like, we might be your last landlord. We're not going anywhere. If you love living here, hopefully you're not going to go anywhere. And then we buy the properties that, to a certain extent, other people aren't willing to touch. So we bought a building recently. It's in a historic neighborhood. It's kind of the worst house on the block. It's a 100-year-old apartment building. This really prestigious historic neighborhood, never been renovated in 100 years. And there's a basement unit there. And when we bought this building, that tenant had not paid rent in 2 years. There was the COVID moratorium on eviction. There's obviously drugs and prostitution stuff going on in the unit. The previous property manager just didn't know what to do with it. Just kind of hear no evil, see no evil, which is the industry standard. It's really sad, but that is the industry standard. And we bought that building, and the day after closing, we entered the unit and said we're doing a safety inspection here, and we identified a number of safety hazards, fire and safety hazards. We actually had to go get a bucket. We filled up a gallon bucket with drug paraphernalia from that unit. It was one of the most tragic things I've seen in my entire life. And we said, we're sorry that your previous landlord let this happen. This does not happen on our watch. Now, we are legally required to return your personal property to you if you want to claim it. We're going to make sure the police are there with us, when we return this property back to you. And by the way, we're going to be back tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day, until we are able to serve you. And by the way, here's a charity that we support that does drug rehab. We'd love to give you a ride. We'd love to help you make a phone call right now. We love you. We care about you. We want to serve you. We don't want to kick you out of our apartment building. We want you to get the help that you need. And it took 3 days for that woman to find help. And she's in drug rehab today. And we renovated that unit. And now that apartment building is this beautiful, classy, historic building that we've restored. We're going to double the value of that building. When you just go do a lipstick rehab, like, you increase the value 10% or something like that, and you celebrate that. Our team knows why they show up to work. They show up to serve people in these situations. We are the line in the sand, and we protect our community. We protect the members of our community with all that we do. We have the privilege to make the world a better place to live in the most tangible sense of the word. And the sad fact is, in the real estate industry, your property manager is typically perceived to be like the garbage man of the industry. Like, it's your job to be a policeman, to just take care of these people that beat up the unit and don't pay their rent. And you have this very oppositional, derogatory relationship. And we believe it does not need to be that way. And people rise to the expectations you set for them. So our organization is not just about giving money away. It's about doing business in a way that makes the world a better place to live. And your typical property management company, it's a high turnover business. It's a tough business. We fortunately have extraordinarily low turnover because people have a reason to show up to work and to do good work and to serve. And I hope that story maybe answers that question in a really hopefully not too confrontational way.
No, thank you so much, Nick, for being on the podcast. If people are listening and they're looking to either invest or they're in one of the markets that you currently work in, and they're looking to join your real estate team, or they have a property that they're looking to sell, what's the best way of them getting more information about Black Swan?
Yeah, you just go to meetblackswan.com, meetblackswan.com. You can block an appointment on my calendar if you'd love to connect, chat. It can be about anything. I love to just offer value any way I can, and wherever the relationship goes from there, great. That's what was meant to be. We do have a couple investment opportunities that are open right now. We have a fund investment opportunity that's open right now. So if you'd like to invest in one of those opportunities, you'd love to put your money to work in real estate in a passive way that makes the world a better place and delivers incredible returns, several times what you can get in the stock market or other vehicles like that. Just go to meetblackswan.com and check out some of the opportunities that we have available.
This is really, really random. This is the last question. How many churches are investors in your properties?
Great question. So we are, I would describe us as being a spiritual organization, but we are explicitly not a religious organization in any sort of way. There is a little bit of a conflict there with fair housing law, that sort of thing. So we don't have any direct religious engagement as any part of our real estate business for those reasons. At some point in the future, maybe we'll figure that out, but that's probably how that'll need to be for the indefinite future, because we never want there to be a tenant, claiming that they were discriminated against on religious grounds.
Thank you again, Nick, for being here. I mean, for anyone listening right there, there's gonna be different things that drive you. Giving back, I think, is a core thing, especially when you're able to get past, and it's just the way I look at it, is that once you get past a certain level where you have enough to feed your family, you have to figure out how you want to basically feed other family or give back to the community,
Amen.
give back to other people. So find out whatever that is and how you can give back, because someone's going to change your life if you're open to it, and you can change someone else's life, again, when you get there. Thank you guys for listening. Please subscribe, please share, and go in the show notes and go find Nick. Bye, everyone.